Welcome, true believers, to Badwolf Comics. I'm your host, the Bad Wolf, and today we have our recommended Hallows Eve reading from the Badwolf Comics library. Stick around, it should be fun. Welcome back, true believers, to another Badwolf Comics episode. Today we're going to take a look at our recommended Hallows Eve reading from the Badwolf Comics library. I'm going to set each book up, we're going to talk a little bit about it, and then we're going to move on to the next book for our reading, and then we'll get our final shot. Alright, we're going to start this Hallows Eve recommended reading with Spawn by Todd McFarlane. This series came out in 1992. The basic plot of Spawn is Al Simmons. He was a CIA operative who specialized in assassination contracts, and he basically murdered a bunch of people throughout his life. So when he was murdered in the CIA, he went straight to hell. And while in hell, he wanted nothing more than to get back to his wife Wanda, who he loved dearly. So much so that he made a deal with Malboja, the devil, to come back so he could be with his wife once again. But as par for the course, when you make a deal with the devil, you never quite get what you bargained for. When he comes back to Earth, he has this great costume that can change shape and form. It's got a mind of its own, kind of like Doctor Strange's cloak. He also has a lot of great mysterious new powers that he's learning how to use. Now that he's been able to see his wife, that's over. His part of the deal is done. He got to see his wife. He didn't specify that he wanted to be with her forever or live with her again or be living or anything like he used to be. He got to see his wife for a few minutes, and then that was that. Now he's in training to be a general in Hell's army against heaven. He doesn't want to be part of Hell's army, and so he rebels against his masters more and more. As the series go on, things escalate between him and Malboja. It's a great read and a great start to our Halloween recommended reading. This is Spawn by Todd McFarlane. Let's move on to our next recommendation. Next up for our recommended Halloween reading, we have Lock and Key. And some folks might be thinking, why Lock and Key? That's not really a scary story or anything. Well, this does have a lot of mysticism and magic. There's even a key that'll turn you into a ghost. The story begins with the murder of the Lock children's father. After he died, he left his family his ancestral home in Lovecraft, Massachusetts. Once they moved there, it was supposed to be a new start for everybody. They had a new school for the kids. And Mom was supposed to be able to get away and get in this big house. She had a big drinking problem from her depression of her husband's death. Tyler, he's the oldest. Kinsey is the sister. She's the middle child. And then Brody, he's the youngest. They were the new kids in a new town. They were, everyone was upset about their dad's death. It's understandable. It's really hard to lose your parents. And when they first get here, Brody, the other two are in school. They have a lot to do. Brody didn't have a lot to do. He was at home a lot. So he started exploring the new house. Found magic and mystery in the well house out back. Later on, you come to find there's many, many magical keys. They do many different things. We have the Anywhere key, which is my favorite key. Anywhere that you can think of, you put your key in the door, and when you open the door, it's a portal to wherever you wanted to go. So if you wanted to go to, say, the Egyptian pyramids, you think about the Egyptian pyramids, you open the door, and you're there. With a key like that, you'll never have to go through security at the airport again. But if you do like this format and you like these books, stick around, true believers. In November, we do have a custom dust jacket set for these very books coming, so you won't want to miss that. All right, let's move on to our next Hallows Eve recommendation. Next up for our Hallows Eve recommended reading, we have DC vs. Vampires. I'm a huge fan of the Elseworld stories, and I'm a big fan of vampires in general, so when they made a DC vs. Vampires, it was a no-brainer for me. I didn't even bat an eye, we just picked it up. The original reigning vampire lord kept the peace between the living and the undead. She understood the value of existing in secret and not wanting the humans to discover that they were actually there. They didn't, because if the world finds out they're there, there'll be vampire hunts, and vampires will have to fight for their lives. They can feed in peace, they feed off criminals and whatnot, and they have a system. Well, there's a new vampire lord in town that wants to throw all of this out the window, and he wants to rule the earth. So what they do is they start secretly turning villains and superheroes alike, and you don't know who's who until it's too late. And if you haven't read this yet, you'll be really surprised when you find out who the new vampire lord actually is. But it's a great read, it's a great series, and it's not done. We still have DC vs. Vampires World War V coming next year, and that's just Volume 1. So if we're lucky, we'll get Volume 2 by the end of the year, and hopefully an omnibus the following year. So we'll see what happens with that. And that's DC vs. Vampires. Let's move on to our next recommendation. Next up on our Hallows Eve recommended reading is by far my favorite zombie story a comic has ever told, Deceased. I thought I'd like Marvel Zombies more than this, but I don't. I really do. Deceased is the best well-written zombie story I've ever read. I couldn't put it down. I was really disappointed when I first bought these books. Only these first 4 were available. I had to wait till the following year to get War of the Undead Gods and wrap up the story. So in an attempt to stop the spread of the virus, Cyborg was sent back to Earth, but it was too late. Apocalypse was destroyed, but once he got there, 600 million people were immediately infected with this virus. It's a techno-organic virus that works on anything, any computer that has an internet. If you see the screen, it turns you. I know it's a little bit, the transmission of this disease is a little unorthodox to normal zombie stories, but it quickly spread through the entire DC universe, and you'll be surprised at who lives and who dies. There's certain characters that I thought would get through this whole thing that didn't last more than a few minutes. So far, it comes in these hardbound editions, which I believe a lot of these are out of print, if not all of them. They did release this deluxe hardcover edition for the first book, but some people thought this was going to be the whole thing. It's not. The Omnibus has been solicited that has the entire series. That should be coming out in the coming months. So if you want this series, definitely grab the Omnibus. If there's any one title that you actually go read out of this entire video, make it Deceased. I promise you won't be disappointed. All right, and that's Deceased. Let's move on to our next recommendation. Continuing our zombie reading experience, our next recommended Hallows Eve reading is Marvel Zombies. Earth 2149 is basically just a planet made up of zombies. A mysterious zombie superhero made it through to our universe and crash landed. And when he did, he infected the Avengers, the X-Men, and the Fantastic Four, which eventually spread to all the superheroes. Now with this one, there's a lot of brain damage to their brain, which makes them the zombies and an insatiable hunger for human flesh. But they still retain their intellect. They're still the same people that they are, as much as they can be with part of their brain destroyed and having an insatiable hunger for flesh. It quickly descends into anarchy and spreads to the entire Marvel universe, infecting everyone it touches. I did feel, in my personal opinion, I did like Deceased better, so if you're looking for an opinion on which one was better, my personal opinion is that Deceased was a little bit better written. I am a huge Marvel fan, don't get me wrong, but these books were great, but I just felt Deceased was just a little bit better. So if you want to see all your favorite Marvel superheroes as the undead, check this one out. You won't want to miss it. All right, let's move on to our next recommendation. And next on our Hallows Eve reading list is Little Monsters. For those of you that do watch the channel regularly, you will note that we did just have a video recently of an overview and a custom dust jacket for this book. Check that video out if you want to learn more about that. This book has been described as Lord of the Flies meets vampires. For as long as these kids can remember, they've been alone in this post-apocalyptic world. The elder vampires, or the adults, left hundreds of years ago, like so long that none of the kids can remember. They left them basic rules. These kids aren't normal vampires that need blood of humans to survive. If they do drink human blood, they turn feral, and lots of things happen when they finally do run into the humans. It's really kind of a weird, elongated coming-of-age story. It's also a story of survival and family. I promise you, if you guys like vampires at all, you'll love this. It was really good. The only drawback for me is I'm not usually a fan of black and white books, and this is black-white, and it has red splash color. That's pretty much what it is for the blood and whatnot. There's a couple other few colors in there, but you know what? The story was so good, I didn't care. I really enjoyed it. I wish they'd make more, but I'm pretty sure this is the entire series. If they do more, I'll definitely grab that, but it's such a great book. I read it in one sitting, so don't hesitate to pick this up. Little Monsters is still available everywhere. OPB has copies right now. You can pick one up. So check it out. Give it a shot. You won't be sorry. All right, let's move on to our next recommendation. Next up on our recommended Hallows Eve reading list is Something is Killing the Children. If you're into monster stories, this book's for you. The plot for this is there's children that are being abducted and missing in Archer's Peak. No one knows what's taking them. They think it's a serial killer, or the kids keep telling stories of monsters in the shadows, and no one's really believing them. They're like, no, it's got to be a serial killer. There's no way it's monsters, you know. Well, Erica Slaughter shows up in town, and she's from a secret society that actually hunts monsters, called the House of Slaughter. And it's a really good story. I don't want to go into it and ruin it for you. This is definitely not a kid's story. If you like blood and gore, this book's for you. I really love Boom Studios deluxe slipcase editions. I don't think this one's in print anymore. I know they had a second release printing, and you may still be able to get your hands on this. This one just got released a few months ago, so you might still be able to get your hands on this as well. Definitely give OPB a check and see if you can get these if you're interested. If not, they do still have the regular non-slipcase editions available you can get. I just prefer the slipcases, so I went with those. But Something is Killing the Children is definitely like top tier Halloween recommendation list. It's full of, you know, monsters and blood and gore and guts, and you're gonna love it. Give it a shot. I promise you won't be disappointed. All right, let's check out our final recommendation for All Hallows Eve. And last but certainly not least in our recommended Hallows Eve reading is Once and Future. Man, Once and Future is probably one of my favorite Boom Studios books. It was my #1 favorite until the Berserker Deluxe Slipcase Edition came out, and now that's taken the throne. But this is a great story. We have a retired monster hunter, Bridget McGuire. She's a little old lady that you wouldn't think anything of, you know, But she's a badass grandma, man. She don't mess around. She used to kill monsters in her younger days, and now she's had to recruit her grandson into this world that he knew nothing about. He just thought his grandma was just a little old lady and he loved her, but turns out she's a monster hunter and pulled him into this world of the unknown. So what's going on is there's a secret society that has found the scabbard of Excalibur, and they're trying to use it to resurrect Arthur so he can bring unity back to Britain. But Arthur has other plans. When he wants to bring unity back to Britain, he wants to slaughter anyone that's not a Briton. So if him taking over is actually a really bad thing. But we have a vengeful spirit, secret societies, and monster hunters. What more could you ask for in a Halloween book? Again, Boom Studios slipcases are amazing. I don't know if you can still get this one, but this one's still fairly new. You should still be able to get it. And if you can't get the slipcase edition, you can still get the regular editions without the slipcase. Some places are even selling just the slipcase, so keep that in mind. But definitely check out Once and Future. It's a great read, and it's perfect for the Halloween season. You won't regret it. All right, well, let's get our final shot, and we'll wrap this up. That's our recommended Hallows Eve reading from the Bad Wolf Comics Library. Let me know in the comments what books you would select for your Halloween recommended reading out of your library. I'd love to hear it. Now, as always, I get 90% of my books from Organic Price Books. For those of you that shop at Organic Price Books, don't forget to use the code BADWOLF during checkout for $2 off your order. And if you just can't get enough and need a great place to talk comics, come see me at the Bad Wolf Comics Facebook group. I can also be found lurking in the pages of the Omnibuds Cafe. It's another great place to talk to like-minded folks about comics and books. They also have a great buy and sell section. I found many a book I was looking for that I didn't want to pay those eBay prices for. I've also sold several books on those sites, so definitely give them a shot. You won't be sorry. But stick around, true believers. Bad Wolf Comics has more to come. Next week, we have our Hallows Eve haul. I got a lot of great books that we've been sitting on. We didn't have a haul last month. We've been sitting on those books for this month. There's a lot of great stuff in there I've been waiting for. You won't want to miss it. Until then, I am the Bad Wolf. This is Bad Wolf Comics. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.